TV podcast episode 46. We're pretty much dead already. This is John. I have with me Jim, Russell, and Bradley, and Jordan. Hey, guys.
Ew.
Hey, Jordan's always easy to forget.
So here's the deal. Be quiet. We're in a hurry. That is the theme of this evening. Our plan is to forego all of the frivolous nonsense and get right to the recap for various reasons, which you don't need to know. And anything that we may skip tonight, like voicemails, emails, Twitters, iTunes, reviews, things of that nature, we will get to next week when we do our first half season recap show. And we're even thinking about taking live phone calls, but that's in negotiation, I would say, yes?
Yes.
Thank you,
I
Russell.
am in favor.
I think somebody threw that at the wall. We just haven't decided if it's stuck or not.
Right, so things will get all back to normal. We figure we're going to have a long show anyway. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to skip all the other things. We have 3 months to talk about all the nonsense we want after the show, so we're going to get right to it. But before we do that, Russell, we have a sponsor.
We do. Our sponsor, as always, for the Walking Dead TV podcast is Discount Comic Book Service. That's DCBService.com. And again, it's kind of getting towards the end of the month here. You can still squeak your orders in if you want to get that Walking Dead Compendium new printing, which is the first 48 issues of the Walking Dead comic book for $35.99, all in one big zombie killing volume. So most of us on the show here have it amongst all the other trades and various issues and formats. It's a great steal and buy for that price. Also at DCBS this month, you can earn an extra 5% off your order in addition to the 8% that you can use by using the code WD8. But you can also earn an extra 5% off on all of your Comixology orders if you go through the DCB Service site to order comics off of Comixology digitally. So that's another great deal from them. And once again, the DC celebration continues, and DC's new 52 issues, the number 5s, are available in a bundle for 50% off. So that is a huge, huge steal. You can get all those 52 issues from DC in their rebooted universe for 50% off of cover price if you order all 52 at one shot. So again, that's DCBService.com. We thank them for their sponsorship, and please use the code WD8 if you're a first-time customer or you haven't ordered in the past year.
Fantastic. We thank them, as always.
I think we should point out that even though we're kind of rushed tonight, or we want to rush it tonight, that it doesn't mean we don't care about the listeners.
Oh, we care.
I know.
We care. And we're going to take our time with all that feedback and everything next show for sure. And as I am about to hand over pretty much dead already to Mr. from Jersey, I notice here that the ratings are in, and they drew a 6.6 for this half-season finale, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, how does that compare to the other episodes?
Down just a hair, but it's still more than the 6 million that were watching it last season. So I think once the word gets out about how this episode ended, or that there's a big shock, anybody that was kind of meandered away, I think during the break, I think they're going to meander back. That's just my opinion.
Brad,
I would imagine so, and I would imagine also that AMC is going to rerun all of the episodes during the break also.
Brad, the season 2 premiere was at a 7.3. So your episode 6 is at a 6.6, which is a drop-off, but not even close to the drop-off that they expect for a show from the premiere on. I think Jordan would probably have a little more to say about that.
Yeah, for the most part, shows are expected to drop more than that. And not only was this higher rated than the season finale last year, I think it was higher rated than any episode at all last year. So yeah, it's a slight drop from the season premiere, but that's expected. So it's still very, very good.
I was going to say that's still really stellar ratings for what's essentially a basic cable channel.
Okay, episode 207, pretty much dead already, starts with the people from Rick's camp having breakfast or lunch or some type of meal out in the courtyard. When Glenn comes up and he decides he's going to talk above Maggie's objections, Dale kind of gives him a nod to go ahead, and he reveals to everyone that the barn is full of walkers. And this gets a shock look from everybody, and then we cut over to the barn.
I love how matter-of-fact that was. It was just like, and the barn in the barn. It was just like you couldn't wait to be able to blurt that out.
I'm surprised he didn't throw in Lori's pregnant in there.
Yeah.
I was going to say this is really when the solid feces starts to hit the rotary oscillator for the crescendo of the climax of this episode. I mean, this is really what it was not. What I was trying to say is there's no accident. This is where they broke the season. This is really where a lot of stuff is happening.
Yeah, I must say that I didn't know exactly what Dale was nodding at first. It was kind of an odd, accentuated.
If you look at it again, and I was going to bring this up, sorry to interrupt, but pardon me. It starts out with Glenn looking at Maggie, and she's swinging her head side to side slowly, saying no. So she's getting a menacing no from Maggie, and then she looks over at Dale, and Dale's nodding his head up and down slowly, like, yeah, you better tell him. So he's getting it, from both sides, and that's why to me it was funny that he was getting a no and then a yes from different people.
So over at the barn, Shane freaks out, says, either we're going to kill all these zombies or we're leaving. We can't have it both ways. Carol starts bringing up Sophia, says we can't leave until we find her, and Shane says, look, she's pretty much dead. We should have given up hope by now, and they all start fighting, and the zombies get agitated.
Yeah, Shane really was kind of off the handle from the get-go in this one. Obviously, it escalates as we go on, but he was quite agitated from the very beginning here.
Oh, definitely. Maggie is mad at Glenn. Glenn tries to go over and talk to her, and she just kind of ignores him at first as she's collecting eggs from the chicken coop, and then finally she comes over to him and says, give me your hat. He gives it to her, she puts an egg in it and drops it on his head.
Do you guys get the vibe that she's never really mad at him? It's almost like a high school relationship type thing. Like, come on, talk to me. That they're going to be cool. He just has to kind of, eat crow for a little while.
She's playing hard to get.
Well, she's in a tough spot. She's trying not to piss her dad off, but then she's also trying not to upset Glenn either. So she's in a hard spot.
Carl and Lori have a conversation, and he says he doesn't want to leave until they find Sophia, and after that, he still doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay at the farm. We then cut over to, I think this is where we cut inside the barn, where it looks like Daryl is going to go after Sophia again on another horse. I don't know if he got permission this time. And Carol says, look, even I'm starting to realize that maybe we're not going to find her. And he says, look, we're going to. He gets mad. He throws a saddle on the ground, and he reopens his wound just a little bit and has to leave. And then he yells at Carol.
Yeah. I would say that was a really odd exchange. And a lot of it for me was I just took it as Daryl's afraid to get too close to Carol because I think he's starting to see that, I won't say it's becoming romantic, but that she's starting to have feelings for him and feel closer to him. And I think Daryl's natural instinct is just pull away or to do something to kind of ruin that because he's the loner and he's, kind of brooding in himself. But yet he's convinced. And I think a lot of it, his conviction for going after Sophia is a lot of his own inner demons and a lot of the way he was treated as a child in his childhood. And I think we saw a little bit of that a couple episodes ago. But it was a really interesting exchange.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's why he's been getting a lot closer to Carol. Just because he really never had that kind of familial connection before. I think he really kind of felt something. That's why he's so obsessed with finding Sophia for her.
Plus, I think that connection makes him feel uncomfortable, which is why he turned around and was just really rude to her and called her a stupid bitch.
Exactly. He doesn't know how to deal with
right.
that.
Right. He's having a hard time, integrating with the group. At the same time, I get the feeling that he really wants to integrate with the group. And then when, the emotional walls come down between him and, in this instance, Carol, it's freaking him out. So, but then he realizes what he did. Later he apologizes. So it's a very interesting character progression for him, and I'm really enjoying it.
Dale goes over to the RV and finds Andrea inside, and she's grabbing some of the guns because I believe that she says her and Shane this time, but later it's her and Rick. But her and somebody are going to go looking for Sophia at this point. And Dale warns her. He says, "Look, I don't think you realize who Shane really is. Is that the kind of person you want to be like?" And she tells him to buzz off.
What's your guys' feeling on what's going on with Dale and Andrea? I've heard people say they think that they had something already. I've heard people say that obviously, Dale is like obsessed with her and would want to be with her romantically, or some people say it's more like a father protecting, taking it at face value type thing. Where are you guys at with it?
I would say that Dale is coming off a bit overprotective, a bit stalkerish, and he is not like that in the comics. So this is a little bit of a different Dale that we're getting. We're getting a different Rick, we're getting a different whatever. To me, he's a bit possessive of somebody he really has no right to be possessive about at this point.
This to me is the Shane factor. I think I'm taking everything between Dale and Andrea at face value. I think Dale obviously has feelings for her. I think just because of the way things have shaped in the TV show that Andrea has not. I think they got along fine with Dale while Amy was alive. But now that things have changed, and I think a lot of it is exacerbated by the fact that Dale knows who Shane really is, and he knows how he is, and he's I think his obsession is a very strong word, but I think his feelings for Andrea are getting heightened because he's very concerned about her falling into the trap of Shane.
And it's very interesting how the presence of Shane in the storyline has caused us to diverge even further from what happens to these two characters in the comics.
Shane is the butterfly effect.
Yeah, see,
Exactly. It's like having Shane. I'm sorry, Brad, but I think we mentioned this on a previous episode. Just having Shane this far into the storyline is like totally. I mean, you have made the comic and the TV universe divergent in so many ways.
I'm watching this TV show and I'm expecting to see Uatu the Watcher show up. Marvel Comics readers of the 80s will know what I'm talking about. There was a series called What If. They took an established story and this character, the Watcher, says, well, what if this one thing happened? Where would the story go from that point? And this is our what if. If Walking Dead was a Marvel comic, this is our what if version. This TV show is a what if version of that comic. And Shane is the thing that's different. What if Shane lived? This is what we're seeing right now is the what if version of the regular comic. And it's similar, but I'm enjoying it. It's just crazy, but I'm enjoying it.
Off the story for 1 second. Jordan, do you know at what point in the filming everything went down with Frank Darabont?
I've heard everything from episode 3 to episode 7. I think when we come back in February, I haven't heard anyone say that he was still around at that point, but I have heard up until even possibly this episode that this could have been the big one, if you will.
All right. I only ask because I really feel the last two are very sort of cohesive and they feel like the same show and it's headed somewhere now, where I had my questions earlier this season and I just wondered if it was turmoil or the changing of the guard or whatever might have been causing that.
There was a story going around earlier in the week about how there were rumors that this episode was going to see the demise of somebody who apparently was very loyal to Frank Darabont. So if that's the case, then I would find it hard to believe that Frank was even involved in this episode or the previous episode. It had to be closer to like maybe the 3rd or 4th episode. You know what I'm saying? You follow me? Follow what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
Yeah. I didn't recall that they specifically called this episode out as the one. I thought it was just in general that there was an actor or actress that was wanting out this season because of that. But
Well, the article I read specifically referenced the mid-season finale
Gotcha.
as the episode that would see the last appearance of this one character. And
Gotcha.
I guess we know who it is now, but I had no idea she was so loyal to Darabont.
So Rick goes in and talks to Herschel about the barn as Herschel eats some meal. It's hard to tell exactly what he's eating. And Herschel says, "No, I want you gone in a week. Now that you've revealed that you know it's in the barn, I can't have you around here." And Rick starts, telling Herschel, "Look, if you put us out in the world, we're not going to last very long. This farm is special." And when nothing seems to get through, he finally reveals that his wife is pregnant. And this seems to work at least a little bit.
Here is for me the turning of the tide for Rick. To me, this is where we start to see. We kind of saw it in that episode, with, where it left off with him, finding out about Shane and Lori being pregnant. But to me, this one is where he starts to assert himself as a leader, as somebody stronger, as somebody willing to push, and not just old Rick. I think would have been like, I guess you're right. We'll go on and go. We don't mean to trouble you. Sorry to bother you, kind of thing. Rick now is like, no, we want to stay. We're going to stay, and I'm going to even get loud with you to make you think about it some more before making up your mind. And I thought that was the spark.
I really think that I agree with you, and I really think that is cemented in quick-set cement at the end of this episode with what he has to do. This is the Rick. This is the Rick that we have been waiting for. This is the guy who makes the hard decisions, who'll do what nobody else will do. And there was some guy on our Facebook wall that was complaining again about Rick's character today, and I thought, well, did you even watch this episode? And he said, this is nothing like the comic. Well, again, this is the what if version of that, and so I won't name his name obviously, but this, like Russ said, this really cements the TV Rick into the same vein as the comic Rick, and I think the second half of the season is just going to knock us for a loop as far as the Rick character goes.
I agree with both of you. I agreed with both of you, but the part that didn't fit for me in between was the quicksand zombies. Having Rick help and play along with that almost set him back again for me, and then be redeemed by the final scene, which we'll get to both of those scenes, but.
I get where you're coming from, but I didn't take it that way because I took it as Rick. I guess that was his throwing a bone to Herschel to say, okay, I was forceful to you, and if this is how you're really going to be, I'm going to help you with this, and we're going to prove to you that we can, be an asset with keeping this barn safe and keeping things the way they are. So I didn't see that as a weakness necessarily. I saw it as him give and take. We're going to play ball, but ultimately I'm still going to push you hard on doing things my way.
Either that, Russ, or he's totally doing what the comic book Rick would do, whereas he would say, we're going to play their game for now, but later when it suits our purposes, we're going to pull the rug out from under him. And comic book Rick has done that a lot.
So Rick and Shane have an argument over the whole situation, and Rick finally brings up, "Hey, my wife is pregnant. We need to stay around here." And so Shane agrees, "Okay, maybe we'll stay around, but we've got to clear out the stupid barn." And we can tell that there's definitely a lot of thoughts going through his head once he hears about the pregnancy, which we definitely see in the next scene where Shane goes over to talk to Lori and says, "Hey, I know it's mine," and she disputes that and says, "Look, even if it is technically yours, it'll never ever be yours."
This is getting pretty tough here. This is when it started really cranking up for me when Shane knew and is obviously going on.
Starts pacing, his eyes start darting back and forth.
Yeah, John Bernthal's just really kicking ass. I mean, we probably don't say it enough. He is really like the linchpin of the whole show, like we've been saying. The whole butterfly effect with Shane being alive, and he's really bringing it home.
Did anybody else find the dynamics between Rick and Shane almost unbelievable? Yeah, I know you just slept with my wife, but I'm going to ignore that and deal with the situation now. Don't you think human nature would make him say something to Shane about it?
I agree. I mean, it's consistent though. Like from when Lori told Rick. I mean, I guess we're to believe that he knew the whole time and he's just looking past it because he was supposed to be dead type thing. I mean, she hasn't told him about what happened in the CDC.
And Shane has said Rick is his best friend. He said it multiple times. Wouldn't he have gone to Didn't Lori tell Shane that she told Rick that they?
No,
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 mention it.
no.
Oh, okay. Then never mind. Then
I,
that makes a big difference.
Yeah, it was a little odd. The conversation was a little odd, but it was almost like I kept waiting for Rick to make a nod to Shane, like, I know and it's okay, so just let's get over this and let's not make a thing out of it. You know, it's that whole, I'm not going to have this uncomfortable conversation with you, but I'm going to let you know that I know, and then we're just going to move on.
It's the honeymooners. I know that you know that I know.
Yeah.
Very strange and sad honeymooners episode.
The one where everybody dies. So on his way back to camp, Carl stops Shane and says more or less what he's been saying the whole time, that he really wants to find Sophia. He doesn't want to leave, and further pushing Shane towards, we need to clear out the barn. So Shane goes over to Dale's trailer because he's looking for the guns, and he starts tearing the whole place apart and can't find them. In an earlier scene, after Dale talked to Andrea, he went back to the trailer and he asked Glenn, who was being looked at that moment, to go get him some water, and we saw him do some stuff with the guns, but we didn't quite see what he was doing yet. So now Dale's gone and the guns are gone.
That was another odd Dale scene. It played out well later, but at the time it was like, okay, is Dale finally losing it? I mean, I get why he was doing what he was doing, because he's afraid of Shane going off the deep end and doing something really stupid. But at the same time, the look on Jeffrey DeMunn's face and the way he was acting, and him telling Glenn, go get me some water. I just need a moment, and you could tell the wheels were turning inside Dale's head. But that was just a really cool scene, a really cool Dale scene, very different kind of Dale scene than we've seen in the comics, but very well played.
See, I disagree 100%. I'm on the other end. I didn't believe that Dale would have done something as stupid as that. You need these guns to survive in this world, and he's going to let jealousy get in the way of that. I
don't think it was jealousy. I think he is afraid of Shane going Batwana crazy and either shooting somebody or shooting everybody or taking Andrea.
And you got to remember the way Shane threatened Dale in the last episode. He's probably afraid for his own life.
And Dale knows about Otis as well.
Yeah, but you only need one gun to kill people. You don't need 12 guns, so there's no point in him getting rid of those guns. That's my point. I just didn't.
Not hiding them. I didn't see him like permanently getting rid of them.
Well, hiding them, whatever. Shane's only got 2 hands. At most, he could use 2 pistols. So why get rid of all of them to begin with? Shane's always got one on him.
Right, but you don't think if Shane was gonna, either go crazy and go OK Corral or take off, that he wouldn't take every weapon he could possibly find just for the fact of having enough guns and ammo to last him as long as he felt they needed to last.
And Shane didn't have a gun, as they actually point out pretty clearly in a couple scenes.
Yeah, but Dale didn't know that.
I think Dale did, because they took all the guns away, and Shane was all pissed about it.
They didn't take all the guns away because they were all in the camper. The point is Shane had access to guns, and there's no reason for Dale to get rid of all the guns, because as far as Dale knew, Shane had a gun. I've bought 99% of everything that's happened on the show except this. It just seemed very forced to me. It's simply a plot device to get them out in the woods, and so Dale could pull a gun on Shane, and Shane walk up and put his chest up against the barrel. That was a great scene. That's what happens later, but I didn't find any merit in the scene at all.
I agree to disagree, sir.
What about the quick Carl and Shane scene?
That was cool.
Yeah, it was cool, and it's weird because it's kind of like they've been forcing on us this show, especially, that Shane has gone bananas, basically. But then you get this scene, and it kind of takes him back to, he really cares about Carl, and he wants to make sure Carl's being safe, and send him to his mom, listen and do whatever she says. And I don't know, it was a good scene. It's just sort of like, I still think they're trying to tug on us with like maybe going towards Team Shane a little bit. Like they still want you maybe thinking about it.
I think I thought of it as he's still trying to get with Lori, and he's going to play nice where she can hear or see, and then he also wants to make sure that Carl's on his side.
I actually got more out of Carl's part of the scene than I did Shane. Carl using language and swearing and stuff like that. He wants to prove that he's as grown up as a 10-year-old can be. He wants to be treated as an adult, so he's going to talk like an adult.
Given how this episode ends, that made it even more powerful, because for Carl to act that way and then see the way that he reacts at the end of the episode, that was to me like the perfect dichotomy with this episode. I just thought that was brilliant the way they play Carl like that.
We then cut over to Glenn and Maggie, and they have a kind of long conversation about why he did what he did. They kind of kiss and make up. Well, they definitely kiss and they definitely make up. And then we cut back over to Shane, who's looking for Dale, and he finds him out in the swamp, where Dale has put them in a garbage bag, and he was going to stick it in the swamp, but tie rope to the tree so he can find him later. And this is where the scene is where Shane says, "What are you going to do? Shoot me?" Dale puts up his gun right up to Shane's chest and can't actually pull the trigger, and so Shane takes all the guns away.
I think one of two things. I think that Dale may end up being the one that kills Shane in this version of the story.
I was thinking that too. I mean, especially after last episode when he threatened him so blatantly, and then this episode, I'm thinking it might not be who it is in the comic that does it. It might be Dale.
And when you think about it, Dale has seen him point a gun at Rick. Dale knows about Otis. Dale has definitely seen the worst of Shane. That I don't think. Probably the only thing he doesn't know about is the CDC, which nobody does, I guess, except for Lori.
Yeah.
Or what do you guys think of this? Let me phrase it this way: would you be ticked off if Shane killed Dale, a character that has lived on in the comic, the full 90+ issues?
I would, because I love Dale.
I do too. Although this Dale is a little different than the comic version, as a lot of characters aren't.
I think for it being The Walking Dead and being one of the things that we love about the comic is that no one is safe. I think from that perspective, it would be awesome, because again, it would reinforce the fact that no one is safe.
Which in the TV version, everyone is safe so far.
Yeah. I mean, and I love Jeffrey DeMunn so much. I mean, I think he's bringing a lot to the role of Dale. But by the same token, I see what Shane surviving has done to the show and how much of an interesting character he's become, especially in season 2. That at this point, I think I would be equally sad to see either one of them go, just because I love what the tension and what each of those actors are bringing to each of those characters, the way they're written and the way they're evolving. So I would, I think it's a toss up for me.
I've been waiting for that no one is safe moment. I was hoping that Andrea had actually killed Daryl for a second. I thought that would have been great, even though I would have missed Daryl. And I think Dale going down would be a totally ballsy, bold move that this could really use. And I'd be sad to see him go, but I still think it would be great.
There are certain scenes in the comics that I really want to see that pretty much involve everybody that's on the show, with the exception of T-Dog and Daryl, because they're not in the comics. And I would hate to not to be able to see one of those scenes because they decide to kill one of those people off. I think at this point, the only person they could kill off right now that would make me react that way would be Shane. Even though he's a great character, but I can point out a scene in the comic for each one of the remaining characters that I would just love to see on the small screen.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, for Dale, there's one of those I can think of, and it's one of those ones where it could happen to anyone, the scene I'm thinking of, and it could have just as much significance. So I could see them losing Dale without losing too much substance to the show.
And I think this episode the way it ended, did have that effect. Maybe not as strong as like the disposal of one of the adults, but I think it, to me anyway, it did reinforce that nobody's safe thing because this girl was in the comics and she was a main quote unquote main character and that kind of thing.
So Shane heads back to the farm. He meets everybody, hands out guns. He tells them all it's time to get down to some business. And this is when, I guess we missed a whole set of scenes here, but Herschel comes up to Rick while Rick's talking with Andrea, and he says, I need your help with something. So this is after the conversation about Lori being pregnant. And so he goes with him. They go out into the woods, into kind of a swamp area where there are two zombies completely stuck in the mud. And apparently this is a fairly common occurrence, in as much as so that it's happened before at least. And so they get some, I don't even know what they're called, but they're poles with loops of wire at the end that use to catch like a stray dog, and they use them to pull the zombies out. And apparently this was Otis's job before. This is the first or maybe the second time that Herschel's actually had to do it. Usually Otis performed that task. But so they bring the zombies back to the farm, and this is right when Shane's handing out the guns, and the added element of the zombies on the sticks is not something that helps to quell the situation, and everything gets explosive very fast.
Yeah, Shane goes flying over there.
And Shane punctuates a lot of what he's saying with bullets, especially the zombie that Herschel is holding. Would a real person be able to take this? How about this? How about this? And he kept shooting her. I mean, he's like punctuating his point with ammunition.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And it's interesting, we had a couple conversations this episode between different characters about whether the zombies are alive or dead, or it doesn't even matter, are they just sick people? And it looks like Maggie's kind of coming over to the side of, maybe they are dead, maybe this is beyond hope, maybe Herschel's seeing it wrong, and this is kind of the last straw with Shane pulling out the gun and saying, a real person couldn't take this, that's the lung, that's the heart, I just shot him in. And finally he shoots the zombie in the head and heads off to the actual barn.
I really thought at this point that Shane was going to get it because I thought when he was firing around Herschel and he's firing so close to these people that somebody was just like, okay, he's freaking lost it. I mean, granted, the whole pulling zombies out of the swamp and leading around by the neck is a little bizarre, but just the way that Shane was just so enraged and so reckless, I was half expecting when he gave that gun to Carl.
Oh Jesus, yes.
and told Carl, what are you going to do? Are you going to defend your family? You take this gun. And I really thought when he started firing rounds close to Rick and close to Herschel that Carl was going to just pull back that gun. Or we wouldn't even see him do it. We would just see Shane sitting there and then boom, one round through the head, and that was it. So when it kept going, to me, it just the tension just kept building and building and building and building because I was waiting for it and it never came. So I just that experience was just awesome for me watching it.
Yeah, and that scene that you alluded to there, Jordan, about Maggie looking at Glenn looks at her, and she kind of nods assent to him, to take one of the guns. I mean, that speaks volumes. That one tiny little fragment of the scene there.
I thought the part that was really interesting as well was Glenn taking the gun because Maggie's standing right there, and you wonder how much of Glenn's heart is in it and how much he's trying to do the manly thing in front of Maggie.
Right. Shane put it as, are you going to defend what you care about? He didn't put it as, we're going to go kill these walkers that are in this barn. He phrased it as, how are you going to stand up for what you love? How are you going to protect these people? He totally went at it from that angle as opposed to the other one. And it was kind of cool because Glenn, he just kind of had, and I think Stephen Yeun is doing an awesome job because he conveyed that apprehension because he looked like, well, I'm not sure if I really want to take it, but I know I should because, something bad happened, that kind of thing. And even Maggie was just kind of like watching him. It wasn't until later when they actually got out of the barn that Maggie looked at Glenn and shook her head yes. Like, okay, we're at the point of no return now. You have to do this.
He looks at her and says, Maggie. And that's when she nods and says yes, yeah. Like he was asking permission or saying, Maggie, I got to do this.
Yeah.
I like the scene, the shot when Shane sees what's going on and he just runs as hard and as fast as he can. And obviously that was like a dolly shot or maybe a steady cam, and the camera operator was running backwards. It was really well done, and Shane was just running right at the camera. I loved that shot. I thought it was awesome looking.
This is where you knew if this was like on HBO or Showtime or in a movie, it would have been a big old WTF coming out of Shane's mouth as he looked over and saw them dragging the zombies by the neck.
But even was this where T-Dog sees it and looks and says, oh shit.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's the one that saw it. And, that surprised me hearing that from T-Dog. Maybe it's because we've talked to Irony and he's not like that in real life.
He seems very unexcitable. But yeah, so Shane goes over the barn. He rips off one of the locks. There's a lock. There's a board across the door, and there's chains. He pulls the board out, and the chain's stretched enough to let the zombies out kind of single file. And then it turns to the 4th of July as they take out zombie after zombie after zombie. And then shortly after the penultimate zombie leaves the building, one more comes out, and we see that the Where Sophia's contest is over. It's zombie Sophia, who's been trapped in the barn, and no one's able to do anything. Everyone just kind of looks in shock for like a good 90 seconds before Rick walks over in a shot that kind of mirrors the first shot of the pilot episode and shoots her right in the head.
And
the episode's over.
This is the scene, Russ, that cements Rick's transformation from the TV Rick to the comic Rick, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Your transformation is now complete.
Yeah.
And this brought up an interesting question that I think a lot of people asked, and Jim asked it on our board and asked it to us in an email. Why don't you go ahead and ask that, Jim?
I just wanted to know if Herschel knew all along that Sophia was in the barn.
And I'm going to jump in here.
Yeah, I think we were going to say the same thing, so you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that we do have the answer in next week's preview, so we're not going to answer that question, but we will after we say goodbye and tell everybody to leave that doesn't want to hear the preview for next week. So they do answer that question in the preview, which again is, I don't know if it's smart or not, but this wasn't we're kind of skipping ahead because we have a lot to talk about this last scene. But
I have a feeling that scene that they showed in the preview is like literally the first 3 minutes of the next episode.
Right, but what I was getting at was, is the preview that we are talking about the one that came on when the show ended, or is it like a website one? Or
it's the one that aired during Hell on Wheels. So it's not even online.
Okay.
It's not on the AMC website at least.
The one preview that's on the AMC website is not the preview that they showed during Hell on Wheels. However, you can see that preview on the YouTube.
The old YouTube.
The
Was this a big
the
shock?
Facebook?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Russ.
No, just being that. Is that like the Facebook or the Twitter?
Yes.
Yes, Betty White. Was it a big shock that Sophia came out of the barn?
Yeah.
It wasn't to me because I read the spoiler. I knew it was happening, but it was still a very intense, emotional scene. And even though, if I could take the preview as the spoiler review as a gospel, and because assume that it was going to happen, it still was like no way they actually did it. She's been in that barn for 7 episodes.
I'm just going to say, I really like the way they made her up. You know what I mean? She still looked enough like a little girl to make it incredibly disturbing when Rick steps up and pops her in the head.
The rainbow t-shirt helped.
Right, the rainbow too. I mean, yeah, there's all that, but I mean, some of the zombies are more, decayed or whatever than others. And Sophia, I mean, she still, I mean, as she came out of the barn, at first it almost looked like it could be just a little girl, but then you see the makeup and everything. It seemed more subtle than some of the other zombies. I thought that was really a cool touch. Add just another layer of shot to that scene.
It's interesting you bring that up, Jim, because there's a video clip on AMC TV where Greg Nicotero is almost saying the same thing, the same idea. They wanted it to be subtle. They wanted her to look recognizable. They didn't want her to look terrifying. They wanted it to be, apparent that this was a little girl once. And
Wow, I hadn't seen that clip.
no. So obviously it was very deliberate and noticeable, and I think it worked really well.
I'm glad that I didn't see the spoiler because I think that would have ruined my experience watching it last night. The whole with Sophie, I really thought that when they panned over and there's one more walker in the barn, I really thought it was either going to be Maggie's mother or I guess Maggie's stepmother coming out of there, and that was going to be some conflict because Herschel was having issues, and then it could potentially set up some conflict between Maggie and Glenn. But when we saw it and he did it perfect, when you start with the shoes and then you kind of pan up, as soon as you could make out the fact that it was a little girl and not an adult, I was like, oh no, they're not going to do it. But then I thought, okay, this is Walking Dead, so of course they're going to do that. It really bothered me. I mean, I had this strange feeling after watching that. Like it really affected me, like personally. I can't explain it. It's just, and I don't tend to get emotional when I'm not like a cry at weddings or funerals kind of guy. I don't get upset with those kind of things. But it really made me uncomfortable, and I can't explain the feeling I had when I'm looking at this zombified little girl. And as soon as you knew it was Sophia, and you look back at the rest of the group and everybody just stopped, I knew, okay, Rick is going to be the one to come over there and pop her in the head. And I don't know if that like made it worse for me, but it just really I watched the rest of the episode and I was just like drained after that. It was just really bizarre. I mean, it's really, really bizarre.
To be fair, Russ, you did cry over the last episode of Three's Company.
Remember, we were never to speak of that.
So, Jordan, we mentioned previously that we had a little Where's Sophia contest running. Do you want to fill us in on how that worked out?
Sure. Well, first off, I'd say it was a major success. We had a ton of entries, and I thank you guys, all you listeners who sent in entries for doing so, because it was really awesome. We had a couple answers that were correct or close, whether Sophia's at the farm or Sophia's in the barn or Sophia's a zombie. If it was close enough, I counted it, I put them in the hat, and out of the correct answers, I pulled a random one, and our winner of the Where's Sophia contest is Brandy L, a.k.a. Fisty LaRue. So, Fisty, if you could send me an email or send a comments at Walking Dead TV an email with your address and let me know whether you want Volume 1 or Volume 2. Again, she just won a copy of either Volume 1 or Volume 2 of the Walking Dead trade paperback signed by Robert Kirkman and Chris Hardwick.
Sweet.
And I'm sure we'll give away whichever one she doesn't choose soon enough because, part 2 of the season's coming up very soon.
And that's very cool because she's been a fan since day one and a big supporter and a Twitter follower and a Facebook group person and very cool. And I think from going over the entrances, I got them and sent them over to you, Jordan. I think the most popular one was probably that she was with Merle.
Well, actually, in going through them, I probably would have agreed with you, but when I went through them, it was actually more Tyrese. A lot of people were guessing Tyrese, which is, of course, a character who hasn't shown up in the show yet, but people were guessing that he would show up and that she would be with him.
Very interesting.
Merle was probably second, but not by too much. I mean, there was a lot of guesses for both.
Very cool. So why don't we go around and do our ratings here? Like I said earlier, we probably won't do the ratings of the people yet. We'll hold the Twitter and the Facebook stuff for next week because we have to get rolling a little bit here. We have another contest prize to give away today and some other cool stuff. So I'll start. I am going 4.76, making it the highest of this season. I believe 4.75 was my previous high. I think the last two shows were fantastic. They really got things rolling in the right direction. I didn't have many, if any, problems with this one at all. I dug the Sophia kill at the end. I thought that was a good payoff for a long time waiting. There were certainly a lot of hallelujahs on Twitter when Sophia was shot, which is sort of morbid, but I get it. So 4.76 for me.
I will give this a 6 out of 5.
Turning it up.
What?
You're turning it up to 11.
I am. As cliched as that may be.
But why don't we just make 6 higher and make 6 the highest?
This one goes up to 11.
No, 7-minute abs. No.
My parents had those VHS tapes, not even DVDs, VHS tapes.
Again, kind of like I said, when something affects me on a more personal level, or something I don't know, I can't explain what I'm saying, but basically this was the kind of TV episode that I'll remember for a very, very long time. And I really, it was a standout for the season, possibly the standout for the show as a whole. And I was really surprised that they were bold enough to kill off I would consider a main character at this point, but a child as well. I mean, that's even bolder because usually kids are pretty safe in these things. And we've seen so far, twice that Rick has had to take out a zombie kid. So that really pushed it kind of over the top for me. And just all the character interaction that we talked about, I think was ratcheted up in this episode. I think Rick's kind of coming towards the Rick that we all want to see and that we know he is in other media was another thing that kind of pushed it in this favor. So that's kind of where I stand. One thing I was going to ask real quick is, do you think the reason maybe they picked Sophia, and I noticed this when the season started, is she seemed to, we all know girls mature faster than boys, that she seemed to really age in that off season? Do you think this is like a Walt effect from Lost, that being that the show moves at a slower pace between seasons than real life does, that they're concerned that by season 2 or season 3, end of season 2, season 3, season 4, that because the time lapse, if the show's not progressing at the time, that she's going to be 16 or 17 years old by the time it finishes, and poor Carl's going to be still looking pretty young.
That's interesting. I didn't think of that, but it certainly makes sense to some extent. I mean, I don't know. Walt was, dunking the basketball by season 3, but so I don't know if it. But I guess when you think about it, both shows kind of run on the same timeline, right? Like Lost they were trying to portray that Lost was only a few months in
For the
total.
first couple seasons, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And honestly, I could see probably at the end of the season, but I would not be surprised if Walking Dead does a time jump at some point too.
That would be very interesting because the book has certainly never done that, and obviously they can draw Carl as a 10-year-old.
Well, I mean,
forever.
yes and no, because in Volume 1, I mean, they go through pretty much all of winter in 6 issues. So,
Right. I guess what I'm getting at is they're up to what, issue 91, and Carl is still a 10-year-old kid. I mean,
I think he might be like 12 now.
okay, give or take. You know what I mean? He's a kid. He's certainly.
7 years in the comics, and he's not an adult yet.
It's one of those.
Yes, the hat still doesn't fit. Jim, how about you?
I give this one 5 out of 5 busters. I've only given 5 out of 5 for the pilot, the season finale last season, and now this episode. I really feel like I said before, the solid feces finally hit the rotary oscillator. A lot of stuff that had been simmering for a long time finally came to a boil in this episode. I'm glad they finally resolved the Sophia thing, and I think it's really interesting to see how much is a surprise to me in this. Going into this series, I thought I would know everything that was going to happen, all the story beats, all the characters, and the timeline and whatnot. But this is a totally new experience for me. They're familiar characters, but it's a totally new ballgame, and I like that a lot. So 5 out of 5 busters, and thanks to our Facebook fan who photoshopped Crazy Herschel Zombie Barn for me. That was awesome.
How about you, Jordan?
I'll give it a 4.75. I liked it quite a bit. There was a couple scenes that didn't work for me 100%, so that keeps it from getting the perfect score. But definitely a very good episode, very intense from beginning to end, and I really did enjoy it.
I'm gonna give this episode a 4.5. I loved it. I think this, it's funny. The first 2 episodes of this first half season felt like one, and I feel like this episode and the previous one were the same type of deal. They were all one. I gave that one, I think, 4.5. I'm gonna give this one 4.5. I loved it, even though I knew what was coming. It was nice to see Shane go ballistic. It was nice to see Andrea fire her gun with confidence that that's the Andrea we know and love. It was awesome to see Rick make the hard decision that nobody else is gonna make. I loved it. I can't complain really about it. I wasn't bored. It's just great. This episode ended much like one of the issues of the comic where they give you that holy crap cliffhanger in a 4.5 for me.
Sweet. So we have a big break here now after that 6-week frenzy. We're off until what? Early February?
February 12th is, I believe, the date the show will be back. So right after the Super Bowl, pretty much.
Just in time for Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Sweet. Again, we will be back next week, and we'll kind of wrap up the first half of the season next week, and then we'll set up how we're going to do things over the break. We definitely are not going to be weekly over the break. I think it's a long shot for us to be bi-weekly over the break, but we do have some stuff planned, so that should be cool. Before we do the wrap-up and the preview, I'm going to see if I can squeeze this in before young Jordan has to run. We did another contest that was a big secret. I have the Daryl Dixon action figure left from the set of Walking Dead action figures that we were able to get at New York Comic Con, and I wanted a Dixon Vixen to have it, so I didn't announce the contest to everybody. I announced it in their Facebook group, and the contest basically said, write a poem about a squirrel, and the best one will win the Daryl action figure. So, long story short, biggest turnout for a contest ever. I have voicemails and emails and upon emails of fantastic squirrel poetry, which you'd be surprised what people can come up with for a squirrel poem. We cannot read or play any fraction of them on the show. It's long. There's many of them. It will start fights and get ugly.
Many of them are graphic.
Yes. So what? And some of them don't rhyme, which just infuriates me. So what we have decided to do is take a winner, which was kind of a unanimous decision, and I think the feeling is less was more in this instance. And we're going to have Jim read the winning limerick, as it would be, as only Jim can do it. So I will give the floor now to Mr. Dietz to read the winning Daryl Dixon action figure squirrel poem.
This is truly a limerick worthy of an action figure. There once was a squirrel from Nantucket who kept all his nuts in a bucket. On a tree limb perched high, when a walker shambled by, he'd grab a nut and at the walker he'd chuck it. Thank you.
Fantastic. So that is Mick from the Dixon's Vixens. She can email comments at walkingdeadtv.com, your address, and we will get you the Daryl Dixon action figure, which I know you will love and cherish always. And we want to thank them once again always for all their support, and check out their DixonsVixens.com and their Facebook group and all the great stuff they do, please. So I think now I'm going to hand this over to Jordan to wrap up this show, and then after that we'll do the little preview for the return of The Walking Dead with the second half of the season.
Yes, indeed. So until next week, you can send us a voicemail at 516-468-7912 or email comments at walkingdeadtv.com. You can now hear all of our shows on our YouTube channel. Just search for Walking Dead TV Podcast. Also catch our con videos, contests, and more there. Check out hhwlod.com for all of our great shows like Half Hour Weekly, The Legion of Dudes Podcast, The PKD Black Box, and Out Now with Aaron and Abe. And also keep an eye out for our less regular shows like Media Minutes and the newly formed Tech Dudes Podcast. And of course, all these shows can be found on Facebook as well. Don't forget to check out forumforgeeks.com for the Walking Dead Podcast Network, and follow us on Twitter at WDTV Podcast and at HHWLOD_network. So until there's no more room in hell and the dead walk the earth, remember, be the carrot, not the stick. Have a good week. And for those of you who want to hear what's going to be coming up in February, episode 208 is called Nebraska. And that's all I know because I can't find a blurb for it.
And here come the spoilers for the previews that we saw from Nebraska.
Yeah, so I don't know the episode summary or the little blurb summary that has very little to do with the episode that they usually put out. However, we do know that one of the first scenes in the episode will be everyone yelling at Herschel, how could you keep her in the barn? How did you let this go on? And Herschel says he had no idea that Sophia was in the barn. Otis was the one who was in charge of it, like he said in this episode. And as far as he knows, Otis must have picked her up the day before the group got there, and Otis got shot that night that the group got there, so he never had a chance to tell anybody. And that's all she wrote.
Interesting. So that could have been a major point of contention and discussion, whether Herschel knew or not. And it seems like that's going to be out of the bag immediately, like you said earlier, Jordan. Do we think they're going to be hanging around the farm much longer now that all this went down? What'd you say, Russ? Oh.
Yeah, I think they will.
I'd say we have 6 episodes left, probably a couple on the farm, and then maybe 1 or 2 on the road right at the end of the season. But, it'll be interesting to see what they choose to do. I'm happy whatever they really choose to do in terms of setting. I know we all know where we want to see them go next. However, whether that happens at the very end of the season or the very beginning of season 3 doesn't make a whole lot of difference to me.
I tend to. Do we want to get into debate about what we think about what Herschel said?
We can.
Like, if he was lying or not?
Yeah.
I'll say what I said to you guys earlier through email. We've seen Herschel be a lot of things so far in 7 episodes. Many of them not very pleasant, but also none of them a liar. And being a liar would go right against a lot of things that he has done so far. So I don't think he's lying. I think he was telling the truth. It was probably Otis who did it.
I think that's a good point. I think that Herschel would say, I think he would stick to his company line that we thought we could heal her. She's just a little girl. I think that would be his angle rather than to lie and say that, that he didn't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he wanted them out of there so badly, if he knew that Sophia was in the barn, he would have played that card already.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I can't imagine a scenario where he would actually have lied about that because he knew they were looking for her, and if he knew she was in the barn, oh, by the way, that little girl you're looking for, she's in the barn. Then again, if he does that to get them off his property, that would out the secret of the barn, and he wants to protect those people under there that he still considers family. But I think he was telling the truth. I don't think he knew that she was there.
Agreed.
All right, so that's about it for this week's episode. Once again, we will see you next week with our first half of the season wrap up, and we'll let you in on all the good information for the offseason. Have a good week.
Later. Have a good week.
Come and knock on the door. Come and knock on the door. We're waiting for you. We've been waiting for you. Where the kisses are heard and heard, and sweet company too. Come and dance on the floor.
That was for me mostly because I am high on sugar.
Yeah, who had the bird? What's going on with the bird? You got birds in your house, Russ?
Sorry, yeah, I tried to make it up.
That's okay.
I tried
Seriously, you really have birds.
to choke that little son of a bitch, but it didn't work.
Oh, dude, trust me, that bird has been the bane of the existence for like 20 years now. That bird just won't die. But anyway.
Oh, man. That would be my baby downstairs crying, but it's your bird.
No, sorry.
How have we